Hello everyone, this is Shayan Siddiqui with you, an expert business teacher, an educationalist and a professional corporate trainer. Our today's topic is internal and external economies of scale, and this is the second and the last video for the topic economies of scale. The lecture is going to be in English language. And our today's topic is internal and external economies of scale. If you remember, in my previous lecture, which was lecture 1, class 1, I explained you economies of scale in details, where I explained you the basic definition of economies of scale. I taught you the graph of economies of scale, and I discussed with you some real life examples and exam questions as well about economies of scale. Now, let me take you on lesson objectives, the learning objectives of our today's lecture. Today we are going to study internal economies of scale and external economies of scale. I will also be explaining you the external economies of scales graph. If you remember, in the previous lecture, I explained you the graph of internal economies of scale, not the external. But in this lecture, I'll be explaining you the graph of external economies of scale, and we will apply the concept on some real life examples. So without further delay, here we go. Welcome back, and let's move over the topic. If we further categorize or divide economies of scale, there are two different economies of scale: internal economies of scale and external economies of scale. And these are the different types of internal economies of scale. Let me revise with you the concept of economies of scale. When the output is increased, when the size and the scale of operation of any organization increases, their average per unit cost goes down. How does it go down? That's what we are going to study today. There are two ways to reduce average cost per unit. Internal economies of scale, when businesses do something internally with their business. External economies of scale, when something happens outside the organization which is beyond their control. These are all the external economies of scale. Okay, let's move over the topic. Okay, definition of internal economies of scale. Internal economies of scale that occurs inside the firm. Internal, inside the firm. Something happens inside the firm which results in reduced cost per unit. Economies of scale that occurs within the control of the organization. Obviously, anything happens in the organization that's in its control. Now let's look at the explanation. It measures the company's efficiency of production. Efficiency of production that occurs because the factors are controlled by the management team. Obviously, all the factors, land, labor, capital, they are controlled by the management team, and the factors of production are being utilized efficiently in the production side, which are resulting in decreased average cost per unit. Now understood? That's called internal economies of scale. Let's move over the detail. The first one is called technical or technological economies of scale. Large firms actually have an edge over the small firms. Large firms can use the machinery to produce their products on mass scale, on larger scale. The fixed cost of machinery is actually divided over the number of units produced. And the more and more number of units produced, the fixed cost will be divided over them. Now, let me give you an example. I was in a country, and I don't want to mention the name, but over there, I saw a shop. A man was running a shop. He was an old man, and he used to make shoes, handmade shoes, 100% original leather shoes, beautiful shoes. But the shoes were very expensive. Honestly, till today, I have that shoes and many years are gone. In front of his shop, there was a brand. The brand also had 100% pure leather shoe. And that was of same quality approximately. But the price of that shoe was much cheaper than this individual person. There is a reason. Because they were using machinery to produce that shoe, and he did not have the machinery. He couldn't afford it. So the cost of that machinery in the brand was actually divided over the more and more units produced. Try to understand. So that is the reason they could enjoy economies of scale, and which is actually called reduced average cost per unit. But this individual cannot enjoy the economies of scale. So the small businesses cannot afford to go for the cost efficient use of the technology. But the big businesses have this edge. Moving on. All right. Second one is called financial economies of scale. This is a real edge for big businesses. Okay, why am I using the terminology or the term big businesses, big businesses? It simply means when your output is huge, normally those businesses are considered as big businesses or the large organizations that they are dealing in millions of products. Okay, millions of units are produced. Try to understand. Okay, let me explain. Financial economies of scale. Banks prefer to lend the loans to stable organizations as compared to unstable or the small organizations, because they are not risky and the small organizations are risky. They are stable, they are not stable. Okay, big businesses have an advantage of obtaining a bank loan on least interest rates. Small businesses cannot do so, because banks do not give them special interest rate discounts. Big businesses do get it, and their loans are actually huge. So try to understand. They are getting the loan on least interest rate with the least rules and regulations. So simple. They have an edge over the small businesses. Small businesses cannot enjoy this. Big businesses can do so. So their average cost per unit goes down. Their average cost per unit cannot go down. So this is called internal financial economy of scale. Okay, and big businesses enjoy this, small businesses cannot enjoy this. Clear? Moving on. The next one is called managerial economies of scale, or we can also say specialization. Have you ever observed when you go to any company, any organization, you will find different departments there: marketing department, HR department, finance department, operations department, security department, purchasing department, blah department, X department, Y department, and every department has their head. That head of the department or the manager of that department is specialized in that specific department, specific field. Why is it so? Why do they do it? There is a reason. The reason is because the large firm divide the managerial roles to employ specialist managers so that the business can avoid duplication of work, and the specialized manager can focus in their area, so there will be no duplication of work and businesses can focus on other areas and they can use or utilize their available resources as efficiently as they can. Ultimately, people, when they will work according to their skill set, they will be able to be more and more productive. They will be able to utilize their skills as efficiently as they can. And when the employees use their skills, their creative skills, they become more and more productive for the organization. Ultimately, they help the organization to achieve their goal, and their cost of production goes down because the same employees, there are uncountable number of reasons involved in it. Basically, their cost of production goes down. Small businesses cannot do so. Small businesses, you will see one person or two people. They are the purchasing managers, they are doing the marketing, they are the financial, they are managing the cash flow and statement and so on. They are also managing hiring and firing and all the labor issues and so on. So they cannot focus on the area where they are supposed to focus on. They are quite diverse, due to which they cannot enjoy economies of scale. Their cost goes up. They cannot bring their average cost per unit down. But big businesses have this edge. Getting my point? Moving on. Purchasing economies of scale. Have you ever observed? I normally teach by real life examples. When you go to Walmart, when you go to Centerpoint, when you go to Extra or different other big brands, you will find there many offers and deals and coupons and sales and sale promotions. Why does it happen? Why the normal businesses cannot do so? Normal businesses such as a superstore, which is next to your house, which is in the same lane, which is in the area, They do not offer, they do not have deals and so on. Why does it happen? Because the big businesses enjoy the purchasing economies of scale. They buy this stuff, they buy the items on bulk, and when they buy on bulk, when they buy huge quantities, they get huge discounts from the sellers. When they get huge discounts, so they have an edge to sell the product on the least prices. So their average cost per unit goes down. Okay, small businesses cannot do so. They will buy the required stuff. They will only buy the number of units which are expected to be sold in next few days, but they will buy in bulk. Although you can say the storage cost will be higher, but not as higher as this person. He has to buy or he has to rent out a warehouse. They own a warehouse. Try to understand. So their per unit cost, and they also have the demand. So whatever the cost occurs, that will be divided on number of units produced or sold. Getting my point, everyone? Okay. Now, this is the reason, even if the large firm buy the finished goods in bulk, they get attractive discounts and the time of transportation. This is also very important. Transportation. If they are buying in bulk, their transportation cost will also go down. For example, if they're importing from outside, they have to pay only one time. Import fees, deposit, blah, 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 XYZ, all type of money they have to pay only once. And they're buying in bulk. The question is, so their transportation cost will also go down. If they buy 1, 2, 3, 4 items, their transportation cost will also go up. They will not be able to enjoy economies of scale, purchasing economies of scale. Got it? Moving on. Okay, marketing economies of scale. The more marketing businesses do, the more sales they will be able to make. And more sales means more revenue means more profit. The marketing budget will be divided over the number of units sold. Try to understand. The marketing budget will be divided over the number of units. So the more units are sold, the more units are produced, the budget will be divided over them, and ultimately average cost per unit will go down. But small businesses cannot do it. Even if they go for the social media marketing and they pay only a few dollars, that is actually the expense. That expense is the part of cost, indirect cost. So the problem is, small businesses will not be able to enjoy economies of scale because this cost will become the part of their product. Try to understand. So their average cost per unit, instead of coming down, will even go up. But big businesses, their average cost per unit will go down because the marketing cost will be divided over the huge output. Clear? Moving on. Okay. Risk-bearing or risk diversion economies. What is it called? You may have seen many brands, many businesses and so on. They have product range. Apple, laptop, tablet, cell phone, wristwatch, smartwatch. Why does it happen? What they do, they divide the risk actually. They spread the risk over different products. So ultimately what happens, if you see the demand of one product is going down, 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 down. Makes sense. The demand of one product is going down, but the revenue of that business is going up. Why? Because if the demand of one product is going down, okay, fine. But the demand of other product is not going down. So business is making profits. The revenue is going up. Maybe there is a least demand, for example, for the Apple tablet, just for example. But there is a huge demand for Apple laptop. There is a huge demand of Apple cell phone. And there is a huge demand of Apple's smart watch. So this risk is spread over different products. Okay, this is called risk diversion economies. Moving on. So we have covered internal economies of scale, and I explained you all these internal economies of scale. Now let's move over the external economies of scale. Okay, let's look at the definition of external economies of scale. External economies of scale occurs within the industry, not in an individual firm. The first thing, economies of scale, it occurs in the industry, not in the individual firms, and are largely beyond an individual's firm control. The firms have no control over this. Now, external means something happens outside the organization. That's beyond their control. They cannot control it, first of all. Okay? So something happens with the whole industry. Industry is going up. So the small businesses also start going up. When they start going up, their sales going up, their production is going up. Ultimately, they start enjoying economies of scale because all the costs will be divided over the number of units produced. Try to understand. It is the reduction in the cost which any businesses can, an industry may enjoy as the industry grows. It also depends on industrial regional locations. This is the last point I'm going to cover. Okay, now moving over the graph of economies of scale, external economies of scale. This is how the graph looks like. Okay, the red one is basically for the internal economies of scale. If you see, the cost was this one, then it moved over here, the output was increased. But if something happens with the industry, the whole cost will go down, and this new green economies of scales graph will be formed. Whole cost is down, same number of units are produced, okay, but the cost is down. Nothing happened with the business, but something happened in the industry. So the new form, which is called long run average cost for external economies. Getting my point, everyone? Okay, moving on. Technological industrial progression. Introduction of internet, for example. Cost is reduced. I give you my own example. I'm an expert business lecturer. Okay, I visit different universities and so on, and I am a professional corporate trainer. Now the problem is, when I used to get the invitations, I used to travel physically. This used to affect my schedule as well, and I used to stay there. It used to cost the businesses as well, and physically I used to visit and so on. Now it's all over after this corona. Okay, everything's online, so it has made my life so simple, and their cost is also reduced. So when I have to train someone, when I have to train an individual or the group of people, group of professionals, or I have to deliver the lectures and so on, just log in and I go online, sometimes even on Zoom, sometimes on their own servers, on their own portals, for example. I teach them, I teach the professionals. So what is ultimately happening? There is a drastic change in the industry. Whole education and training industry has moved from physical to E. So businesses like me, I own a company, a small company, have actually enjoyed this benefit of economies of scale. So when there is an increased productivity in the industry, there is an internet revolution or something, for example, businesses will be able to enjoy economies of scale. Okay, moving on. Okay, better transportation, very important. It's a very important point. Now, location and infrastructure in any business, they play a vital role in the success or the failure of an organization. Keep it in your mind. The reason is because the customer, first of all, the customer prefers to visit the organization where they have easy access to. Let me give you a real life example. Just a few days back, I saw a restaurant closed, and it's a big chain, and I got a shock. Then I realized, oh my God, what happened actually? The location selected was wrong. The location was just beside the bridge. So if you really want to go to that restaurant, for example, you have to first go down the bridge, then take a U-turn, then again go back, then take a second U-turn from the signal, and then go to that restaurant. Ultimately, what happened? People, because that location was not convenient for the customers, so the sales started going down and the business was shut down. So basically the location, the infrastructure of that location is not in the hand of business. That will be provided by the government. Okay, so if the infrastructure is good, for example, roads and all the necessary facilities and so on, if they are provided well, timely deliveries will be possible. You will not buy from Amazon if they do not deliver on time. Okay, you will not buy. Amazon guarantees to deliver you on time. Different businesses, Daraz, Noon, and so on, they deliver you before their committed time. Okay, so deliveries will be late if there is no proper infrastructure, and if there is a proper infrastructure, it will be a plus point for the businesses. Okay, employees will report on time. Your employees are the key. The employees will report on time, and if they report on time, ultimately your work will start on time, they will leave on time, they'll be motivated, they will not get stuck for hours and hours on the road. So that's a nice thing. And I have already explained you that customer basically prefers to the location where they have easy access to, they have a parking space and they can easily go there and so on. So basically the better transportation is not in the control of the organizations. It is beyond their control. If the transportation network is good, businesses will be able to save the cost and enjoy the economies of scale. If the transportation network or the infrastructure is not good, businesses will not be able to keep the prices low or reduce the prices. Okay. Skilled labor, that's very important. Some businesses prefer to operate in the regions or in the locations where they can easily find the skilled labor related to their product or the services they are offering. Okay, let me explain to you. Some countries, some governments offer different courses to their young university students, to their people. Okay, some universities offer this, some private institutions offer this, some universities offer research centers and so on. So what exactly happens? Businesses who are moving to any other location, just for example, they prefer to go to that location where they see that these facilities are available. So if we go there, we'll be able to find the relevant skilled labor. We won't have to hire people from outside, bringing them. This will cost us. So we will hire locals. And if they hire locals, their cost will go down. If the cost goes down, skills are matched, businesses will be able to enjoy the economies of scale. Getting my point? Okay. Moving on. Regional specialization. Indian spices are very well known around the world. Kashmiri saffron is also very well known. Saudi dates are well known. They are the best things, and different other things. Coconut oil of Sri Lanka is well known. Now read it. It means a specific location of the country has a highly regarded and reliable reputation for producing a certain good or service. Just imagine, you want to start a coconut oil business. What would be your preferred location? Sri Lanka or Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman? What? That is obvious, Sri Lanka. If you want to launch a tea business or you want to set up a tea factory, tea manufacturing factory, what is the best location for you? Kenya. Getting my point? There is a reason. Because Sri Lanka is specialized. The weather of Sri Lanka is supportive for coconut farming and so on. The weather of Kenya is fully supportive for tea farming, for growing teas and so on. But the weather of Saudi Arabia is not supported for that. If you think that you will open the factory there in Saudi Arabia or Dubai, where the temperature is 50 plus or 55 plus, so what you have to do, you cannot grow coconut trees there. You cannot go for the tea planting and the farming there because the weather is not supportive. You have to bring from Sri Lanka or Kenya to Dubai. Then you have to process it. It will cost you so high. Instead of that, why don't you set your plant there in Sri Lanka or in Kenya? And from this, you will have the regionally specialized and skilled labor that they know about the processing of these things. Your transportation costs will be saved. Okay. And you are in the location which is very well known for that specific product. So if you are specialized, now read it, you will understand this allows the industry to benefit from getting access to the specialized labor, the one I explained, subcontractors and the suppliers, they are already there. It helps to reduce the average cost of, we know that the reputation of the business allows to charge higher prices due to the reputation, because people know, oh, this is a product, this is a specialized product of that area. So what actually happens, you create an impression that you are a specialized product of that area. So you have an edge to charge a little bit higher than normal or usual, and people will happily pay because they know that you are specialized. Try to understand. So you will get this edge. And due to this, your average cost per unit goes down and businesses enjoy economies of scale. Regional economies of scale, external economies of scale. This was a lecture on internal and external economies of scale. I hope you have understood today's topic, internal and external economies of scale. I tried to teach you this topic in as much details as I could, and things are a little bit clear now. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. If you have already subscribed to it, thank you so much, but please refer my channel to others so that they can also benefit from my lectures. Thank you so much for watching.